Turns out off-road products are for more than just off-road vehicles. Today we are going to install this Anvil off-road winch on this 20-foot car trailer. So on this trailer, it doesn't have real heavy-duty axles or anything like that, and I don't plan on hauling anything real heavy. So we went with this 4,500 pound winch right here, which should be more than enough to roll some junk like that. So I'm going to mount the winch in this old truck toolbox that came off a little pickup I used to have. There's more than enough room to mount a winch and a battery in there, along with whatever else you need. Got it all unboxed, and I just thought I'd go through and show everybody what parts and pieces I'm going to be using for this install. Obviously, we've got the winch right here with the synthetic line. Got a nice big heavy hook with a little flag on it. This is the wired controller, so that'll plug into this box right here, the power supply. And these also come with a wireless remote for the winch too. Got a fair lead. I think I'm going to mount this on front of the toolbox there. Got some nice high quality wiring. We got the winch mount itself. Now I've also got some Bright Earth LED work lights. I'm going to put these on the four corners of the trailer so it'll make it easy when I'm backing up in the nighttime or strapping a car down when it's dark. And then to retain all the wiring, instead of drilling holes and stuff in this nice trailer, I have these magnetic cable tie holders. I'll show you those a little better when we get to the wiring side of this. Speaking of the wiring side, I got a Mr. Gasket trunk mount battery installation kit. So this is going to keep anything conductive from falling on the battery terminals and making sparks and catching everything on fire and burning the whole thing to the ground, as well as just holding the battery securely. And it also comes with a pretty good little bit of power wire in case we need to extend our power somewhere else for some reason. And the box top is held on with these straps in this bag. So I'm working on mounting the winch plate inside the toolbox, and I just needed to center it from side to side. So what I did was I measured the width of the toolbox, and I measured the width of the winch plate, which this particular one is 8.5 inches wide. So then I subtracted the width of this from the width of the whole toolbox and divided that in half. And that gives me the distance from this edge to that edge, and that edge to that edge. And then you get it centered, measure it up, mark your holes, and then it's time to drill. So now, before I drill any holes, I just want to set the winch down in here to make sure I'm not going to have any fitment problems. Measure twice, cut once. In this case, measure once, drill twice. I don't know. Well, it looks like it fits pretty well. This battery lug does get a little close to the toolbox, but this is a ground terminal, and I'm gonna put a jacket over it anyway, which comes in this kit. This little black kind of jacket boot for the terminal. And even if it does rub through, it's just a ground, so I'm not too worried about that. So the battery's in there. Let's make sure it closes with no issue. Probably help if I move the tape measure out of the way. Yeah, that seems good. But now that I've measured for my winch bracket, I can start drilling holes for the mount, get some holes here drilled, and a slot cut for the roller fairlead. Yeah, I got a little carried away with my cut on the top. My goal was to have this rough edge up away from where the fair lead meets here. The last thing I wanted to do was cut this nice synthetic rope and have to take the whole winch off and replace that. So the winch mount and the fair lead are installed. They will have to come back out just for me to do the complete installation after I get the winch sitting in there and all that good stuff.
20 minutes later.
Yeah, I've got the winch and the battery kind of mocked up here and all the wiring mocked up. Wiring the control box is super simple. There's a positive and negative for the motor on the winch. So you just hook those up, positive, negative, positive, negative. Slip the little boots over there. You have a nice secure seal. And then you run these to the battery power and ground. Positive, negative to the positive, negative. Now you can see we have our wired mount, which works just fine, but there is also a wireless remote. So I guess next on the list is finding a place to mount this, and then I'm gonna shorten all these cables, make it nice and pretty. I might put it over here somewhere or on this side, not really sure. We've got everything wired up, looking real slick.
That's exactly right.
Using the battery box and shortening those wires up made a big difference. I don't have any open terminals or loose wires just laying around that might get damaged or short out on something and start a fire. Got a real nice, clean, insulated, well protected area for all my electrical connections. I just installed that power module for the winch down in the side of the battery box because there was room. I have a connection for the wired remote right here. All you got to do is twist that loose and unplug it, and your wireless remote will still work. And my plan here with this trailer is to set it up so when the trailer plug is in the truck and we're driving down the road, it's going to charge this battery. And in order for that to happen, the battery needs to be grounded to the trailer, which is grounded through the truck hitch. And I'm also going to have to run a charge wire out of this plug into the positive post on the battery terminal. Now I'm also going to need to run some other wires out of this toolbox in order to power up all the lights that I want to run. So I'm going to use this grommet, and I think the smart place to put it is going to be right there. So now I just need to measure a little bit and cut a lot.
12 seconds later.
The grommet is installed, and I'm running my main ground wire down to the frame of the trailer. That's the bottom of the grommet, and this is my ground wire. I have decided I would like to ground it here directly to the trailer frame. I need to get an idea of where this is going to land so I can mark my wire. In order to have the best idea of how long this wire needs to be, I need to go ahead and install my grounding point. There are a whole lot of people that would use a speed screw to ground this wire. Speed screw and a ring terminal. But what I'm gonna do, because I want this thing to really last, and I may end up grounding multiple wires to this point, is I'm gonna use this riv nut. So a riv nut is basically a rivet that is threaded on the inside. So I'm gonna have to drill a hole that this will fit in. This one is for a 1/4 20 thread, and as far as I can tell, it needs a 3/8 hole. So I'm gonna drill my hole, install this sucker, and then I can cut my wire to length crimp my ring terminal on it, heat shrink it, and get it all tightened down. After a little bit of messing around with the riv nut tool, finally got this thing installed. I got my ring terminal installed and crimped, and I got a bolt. After I think I have everything grounded to this point that I want, I'm gonna take this bolt back out, put some Loctite on it, and run it back in. This is a great way to ground stuff, because when you drill a hole through the metal, you have bare metal that the riv nut is contacting, and it will conduct from the ring terminal to the bolt to the riv nut to the bare metal inside the hole that you made in the frame. I've managed to decide where I want to put the lights on this trailer, at least the ones on the front, and now I'm trying to figure out what is the smartest way to route these wires and terminate them and all that good stuff. So in order to run these wires, you need to mount them to the trailer somehow to keep them from flopping around and all that good stuff. So instead of going to the trouble of drilling a bunch of holes or using a bunch of speed screws, I'm going to use these magnetic cable tie holders. These are a really neat product. They come in a couple different sizes.
The cream of the crop.
These are super simple to use. Obviously, they're magnetic, so they'll stick to anything ferrous. Grab yourself a zip tie. Stick it around whatever wire it is you'd like to secure. So I don't want to obviously mount it right there on top of the trailer frame, so I'm gonna snip this off just to get the excess. I'm just gonna stick this around on the underside. My plan here is to kind of cut up the harness that comes with these bright earth lights. The lights themselves come with a pigtail with a Deutsch connector, which is nice. That makes it weatherproof and everything. And you can also get a harness that's got a switch on it and a relay and all that good stuff. But it's just way too long for what I'm doing. It's really meant to be used on a truck or a Jeep or something like that. Okay, the wiring for the front set of lights is pretty much done. I have my riv nut ground right here, grounding the battery, and this is a ground for the lights. And then I have power coming out from the battery from the relay that's part of the original wiring harness on this deal. And you can see I use lots of heat shrink, got it all nice and insulated and safe from the elements. This is the relay that comes built in to the wiring harness, and this is the switch that comes with the bright earth wiring harness. The way this is wired, you don't have to do anything extra to make the switch light up when the circuit is closed. And my lights are working just fine. We'll leave them on and go over here and turn all the shop lights off. So yeah, these lights are plenty bright. Everything else in the shop, every light is turned off. So it's literally just these two work lights putting all this light out. That's really impressive. This will be great anytime I'm loading something up in the dark. This is going to be a huge help. My plan for the other two lights, I think I'm going to mount them on the back of the fenders, something like that. That'll give me real good illumination around this back corner of the trailer when I'm backing up trying not to hit stuff or drop it off in a ditch. So I'm going to use this plug that comes on it. It is a Deutsch connector, and I have a wiring harness laid out right here. This is a harness you can buy from Bright Earth that is a separate piece. So you have the relay right here, and then your power and ground that go to the battery, and a fuse. And these two wires are power and ground plugs to go in those connectors on the lights. Real nice stuff. And then of course this nice little switch. I need to run this harness from the toolbox up here on the front of the trailer all the way back to these lights. It's probably not going to be long enough, so I'm going to have to extend it a little bit.
3:28 a.m.
It is super dark and super cold outside, and the trailer is finished. Put a little paint on it. Did an awesome job. Not. So in here I've got a nice little tray that came with the toolbox, my box of Anvil off-road accessories, got my Mr. Gasket battery box, the 4,500 pound winch, of course, with a set of Mr. Gasket ratchet straps. Got everything wired up nice and tidy, and I ran my switches right here. I can control it with the toolbox closed. Check out that orange illumination action. Gonna turn my flashlight off, and I'm gonna turn these Bright Earth LEDs on. Now that is some illumination. This is gonna be excellent. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
This is super rad. So if you've got a trailer or a truck or whatever that needs a little pizzazz, hit up Anvil Off-Road and Bright Earth LED to hook it up.